what would you say to me as like if you were consulting me as your buddy? Like, how would you get me motivated? Or
Man, it's in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity, right? I mean, it's so I always look at those things like challenges. For some reason, when I get injured, I start there's something that twitches in my head, and I start exercising actually even more. It's all in your mind,
okay,
right? It's you versus you.
okay, I'll take that into account. So I'm gonna get back in next week, and I'm just gonna work out my right hand. I'll be bigger on this side. I'll just do curls on one side then.
Legs all day.
And legs all day?
Legs
Okay.
all day.
Okay. Alfred Guam and Beyond. This is Lingerie Doc, Dr. Luan Nguyen. So I'm here with Tony Sgro, and he is the vice president and general manager of Paradise Fitness, and he's been in this space and been the face of fitness for Guam for many, many years. So I'm excited to have him here and get his perspectives. And we have had a lot of questions to ask him. And one of the things I really like to start off or kind of delve into to really understand the person that I'm that's in front of me is to understand their ikigai. So ikigai is like life purpose. And so can we start with that? Like, what would you say is your ikigai?
So first off, Michael Sgro. It's Michael Sgro.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Michael Sgro. Tony Sgro is my dad.
Yeah.
But when you sent me that, I was like, man, I had to research it. I'm not gonna lie. So my purpose, if I had to look ikigai, I mean, you're the first person who've ever asked me that. I'm not gonna lie. But through my 36 years on Earth, I would say, just love. God is love at the end of the day. But my family and my daughter, they're really my purpose. But more so just to be genuine. Be genuine to people, and just positivity. Just be genuine. If you could be genuine and have that authenticity of who you are and spreading that positive energy, I think that really is probably going to be my ikigai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the personality or what you want to portray out to the world. And I think authenticity is what's really kind of really prevailing now. And I think that's what makes a difference in the podcast and personalities. It's no more scripted area. It has to come from the heart. And I think
exactly.
that's coming out now. And to be able to talk with authenticity, with truth and authenticity. Can't even say that. But
I know it's a tongue twister. It's a tongue twister for sure. But I've always, that's like my word of like the last, I think 3 years, authenticity and just being genuine.
Yeah.
And especially in the world we live in right now, like with social media and everything at our fingertips and on our phones, like I feel sometimes we lose that. And, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and, that's if there's one thing that I want to teach her is just how to be yourself and how to be genuine.
Yeah.
And you could still be yourself and be authentic in today's world.
Yeah. And, many people know you as pretty much the face of fitness on Guam. And can you tell me about how you landed or how did you get into the world of fitness and Paradise, and how did this all happen?
So, I mean, Paradise is, I like to say I didn't choose Paradise. Paradise chose me, but it's funny because Paradise started in 1996.
Yeah.
I was only in elementary school, right, when my dad and our families went into that realm of fitness. And maybe that could be another episode and podcast. If you get my dad on here, that would be a cool concept. But it was 1996 is when we first opened Derrito. I was in middle school, elementary middle school. And then in 1999, that's when Agania opened. But as far as like after college, I worked at Paradise since I was in middle school, in high school, right? I used to vacuum the facilities, and they used to drop me off, and I used to vacuum and clean and just put my earphones on and wipe the mirrors.
Yeah.
And then when I got my license, I was the runner, do all the bank runs, and then I was working the front counter as a fitness attendant, and then at sales on the summer as a fitness consultant. But then it was weird. After college, I graduated. I was in Hawaii, and I had like 3 or 4 interviews, and I sent out my resume, of course, after like any college student, hoping to land the dream job, right? I applied at Nike headquarters, which was one of my dreams. I applied at Apple and 24 Hour Fitness. And 24 Hour Fitness, I had like 3 interviews and I got the job.
Yeah.
Worked there for like a year. And then after a year of working there, I ended up getting promoted to
As a personal trainer, or
no, as a club manager.
Club manager.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I was one of the fitness consultants there, membership counselors, just doing sales.
Yeah.
And I worked my way up the ladder. Was head of the district in sales, and ended up getting that opportunity to be a manager position. And fast forward after that, 2 to 3 years later, my dad calls me up and goes, "Hey, I need some help. And there's a job opportunity for you if you want to move back home." And I was like, of course, I'm not going to say no, right? Like, he gave me my education. I always thought about, like, what am I doing out here in Hawaii, right? If I grew up, I'm an island boy at heart, right? Grew up, born and raised on Guam. And I was like, okay, if I'm going to give back to an island, I'd rather give back to the island that raised me.
Right.
And I always tell people that full circle of life. You got to come back home, learn, spread your wings, leave island, spread your wings, and then end up coming back and bringing that knowledge and experience here and try to make Guam a better and healthier place.
Yeah.
So that was the goal. And that was like in 2012 when I moved back. So in 2012, I moved back and again came in, worked from operations, worked sales, and just worked my way up the ladder and gained more and more experience.
Yeah. So wow, your dad didn't give you any break. They started from sweeping the floors to
Yeah, it was a humbling experience.
Yeah. So, and I think especially in your position, like Paradise has been, the top gyms, big brand, I imagine to keep it number one or one of the best on island for years and years, because best all the time, it's a arduous and tough thing to do. But what would you say one of the biggest challenges operating a gym, and then how do you stay at the top of the game?
That's a good question. I mean, we were just talking about that, right? And next year will be 30 years for us, right? 30 years. And I think the biggest thing, and it's just in general, not even just running a gym. I don't even like the word gym, right? Running a fitness center and running Paradise it's more of like, it's the legacy of my father and our family, but it's a business at the end of the day, and people don't realize that, right? And oftentimes people think, oh man, you work at the gym, you get to just work out all day. It's easy, but they don't understand everything that happens behind the scenes. They don't understand the blood, sweat, and tears it takes to cultivate a brand, but more so to cultivate a culture. And that's the biggest thing, is how do you influence people, and how do you build culture around a brand? And when I moved back, it was like, I had all these ideas, right? Young kid out of college, thought I knew it all, right? Just fresh in from the corporate fitness world. And I came back and had all these ideas, but I was like, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel, because it was already something established. It was already something that was around for over a decade. So I came with this mindset of just observing first and listening.
Right.
And that's the biggest, I think, part, is you got to humble yourself and suck your pride and ego up sometimes, and really just observe and listen. And it took me a while to figure that out, right? I had all these ideas and maybe a few of them stuck.
Yeah.
And how could I modernize the brand, like the logo, right? It started off with just the logo, and then when you understand what a brand is and a business, it's really about culture, and it's about the people you keep.
Yeah.
So the biggest asset to any company, I always tell this to my team, is the people you keep.
Exactly.
That's the hardest. That is the hardest thing. When you figure that out, how do you keep people happy and motivated to come into work and enjoy what they do and love what they do, right? And I think that's the biggest, hiccup people forget, right? They're so busy, they're looking at everything else, and they're not focusing on the biggest asset, and that's their people. Yeah. They are the brand. And I could honestly say it took me a while to figure that out, but that is the sauce. That is the secret recipe. If you're taking care of your people, they will take care of your company and your brand. Yeah. And that's the biggest part, right? It's about managing people, right? You could have you could have the nicest equipment, you could have the nicest reels, you could have all the likes in the world, but if you're not taking care of your people, then you will fall. Yeah.
Definitely agree with that. And I think I had in a way similar experience. You're exposed out to the States, you see all the medical things going on, the new technology, the new ways to practice medicine. I learned about acupuncture, aesthetic medicine, and I want to bring everything back, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I wasn't too focused, and I couldn't execute that well, and it took me a while. That I gotta learn one thing at a time and kind of launch these things slowly and be an expert at one thing before we have too many things and not be an expert at anything. But like you said, you had all these ideas coming in as a young new cat, right? But like, what are one or two things that you felt you brought from the States or ideas that you were able to implement into your fitness center?
So one of the first things, and I'm a business and marketing major, right?
Yeah.
So but after experiencing a big corporate brand like 24 Hour Fitness, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Paradise has been around since 1996. When I got here, one of the first things that I saw is we had a philosophy, right? We had a philosophy, but we didn't have core values, and the team didn't understand what the core values were. We had this long philosophy that is going to be the blueprint of what the company stands for, but every brand has core values. So some of the core values that we developed, it's an acronym. It's called ACHIEVE. So believe and achieve. So ACHIEVE stands for accountability, connected, high expectations, integrity, enjoy what you do, versatility, and then energizing your team. So that was like the acronym that we started with, and we just kept building on it and building on it. And it took a long time to kind of massage that in through training our staff, giving them that right experience. But that was the first step. And then obviously modernizing the logo, right? You have this logo that, you have I like to say it's the classic OG logo, the old school diamond, right? And then it's like, how could I modernize this logo without changing it? So that was one of the biggest, I think, things we started off with. But as far as just having an open mind, as far as, when you come to Guam, it's a whole unique marketplace and unique place to do business.
Yeah.
And being born and raised here, and then just seeing Hawaii, and whenever I travel around the world and visit different gyms and different fitness places, you could see that the culture and the aesthetic of certain things. And Guam, we always like to say Guam's 5 to 10 years behind, right? And I can honestly say we've gotten 10 times better, right? And I think it's up to us and our generation to kind of bridge the gap. But it's always nice to leave the island, get some new inspiration, get some new ammo to come back here and kind of execute something different. Yeah,
cool. So this is going to be a big question now. I mean, you've been here in the fitness industry, and, I see your motto in the gyms since Aganya and even in Tumon, but, the motto of, exercise is medicine, or that's your prescription to life, right? And but being in this industry, you're not necessarily a physician or necessarily in that capacity, but your place and your influence does make a difference on everyone's health, right? But from your perspective, what do you think needs to happen for Guam to be healthy? They say that 90% of the healthcare dollars is going into chronic illness, like diabetes, heart disease, stroke. But like, in your perspective, what do you think has to happen?
Oh man, we're gonna probably need a lot of episodes for this one. I mean, I just got chills just thinking about it, because it's something that I truly care about, and like being in this industry and understanding what we do for our community. Like even just after the pandemic, we realized like we were an essential service for our members. Like they need us, right? And it's like we're increasing the people's longevity of their lives, right? And that's the U.S. healthcare system. It is what it is, right? But I think what we need to do is help bridge the gap with the medical community and the preventative healthcare community, and figure out a way to coexist, right? You go to the doctor, you're sick, they give you your medicine, right? When they come to us, the doctor either scared them, right? Or they woke up one morning and they're just like, okay, I need to go work out and exercise. But imagine if you can go to the doctors, they're not going to prescribe you what to do for exercise. They'll say, hey, you need to lose some weight. You probably need to do a little bit more cardio. But if they could prescribe and say, hey, go to an exercise facility and you get your exercise prescription from them, right? That was one of the things that when we look at exercise as medicine and how the American Medical Association came up with that years ago, it's like, now how can we make that better? How can we make an imprint into the model of the U.S. healthcare system?
Yeah.
And I understand how it works. I get it, right? It's preventable healthcare, and let's just be honest, it's not something that's at the forefront of what people like to talk about. We know the benefits of exercise. We know it makes us feel good, right? We can go on and on, but if we could have that partnership with clinics and the medical community where they say, hey, okay, we know you need to exercise. We already know you're on XYZ medication, but one of the biggest things that you could do to implement into your lifestyle is go exercise. At least 30 minutes to 45 minutes. I think it changed. They used to say 30 minutes a day keeps the doctor away. I think 30 minutes is fairly short. You know, I mean, that's great if you can do 30 minutes a day, but if you can go 45 minutes or 60 minutes a day and know what's the proper dosage of exercise you need, what's the right frequency, what's the right intensity, what's the right type of exercise, fit principle, right? I mean, there's so much that we could do, but half the time they go to the doctors and, you know, it kind of stops there until it's like, I'm not going to say too late, but they get scared.
Right. Unfortunately, that's just the way it happens sometimes. And I wish, you know, it didn't come to that, right?
Yeah.
People having a stroke or heart attack for them to realize you got to start moving now.
Yeah, you got to start moving.
Yeah. So, yeah. And in some ways, I've kind of approached the way I treat people sometimes. And I kind of use the power of psychology, or I think people are sometimes receptive to the script, right? The prescription pad.
Yeah.
So I actually sometimes write, especially like for my weight loss patients, you got to do this many 30 minutes of walking or go to the gym, you know, or what. First ask them, meet them where they are, right? What's realistic and what's doable.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's just once or twice a week, that's fine. And they feel like that's something they commit, I put that on the prescription pad. And that's your prescription. And this is how much more exercise you got to do, or this is the amount of vegetables you got to eat for the day. Right. So that's more of my approach lately. So, but, you know, it's always harder in practice. But, you know, and right now it's January, and everyone's doing their goal setting and New Year's resolution and things. But, you know, in your perspective, why do you think it's just so hard for people to maintain those healthy habits like eating well or exercising?
Man, it's hard, right? We're as a human, right? We're creatures of habit, right? And motivation is what gets you started, but habit is what keeps you going, right? One of my favorite quotes. And even like me, it's always, I go through this every year, like from my birthday, which is November 10th, from my birthday all the way to the end of the year. It's like holidays, my birthday, holiday after holiday, Christmas parties, right? Travel. It's hard to stay consistent in certain things, but I always tell people, just celebrate the little wins, right? That's the hardest part, I think, is being smart goal setting is something I'm big in, right? You want to be specific, you want to be measurable, attainable, reachable, and timely.
Yeah.
And if you're specific and little goals, like for me this year, one of my New Year's resolutions, I need to do a 5K at least once a month outside and with my daughter. So pushing the stroller. So I did one this year recently, and pushing the stroller, right? I tore my Achilles like a couple of years ago. So running outdoors is just never the most fun, right? I'm used to running on the treadmill, right? I want to know my heart rate. I want to just know, less stress on your knees and lower back. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a 5K every month. That was one of my goals. Be really specific. Nothing crazy. I'm not going to go and train for a half a marathon or a marathon, right? I'm not going to do that right now. But start off with baby steps and go from there. But that's the hardest part. And then it's just, I'm not going to lie, culture on Guam. Right, we like to celebrate food. Yeah, right. We celebrate with food. Food is a part of our culture.
Sometimes they say food is love, and that's what I've always told. Right. So, what would your advice be? Like, if your nana says, you know, take this food, right, and it's kind of a sign of love. Like, as a young person that wants to be respectful, like, how would you phrase it back to nana? Like, how would you say, I can't have this?
Yeah, that's the hardest part. And I have a major sweet tooth. I'm the worst when it comes to like food and nutrition, right? Like, but I've taken so many nutrition courses. I have great friends who are registered dietitians, and I've sat through courses and I understand it. And I think it's a lot to do with like our upbringings, right? And you're a product of your environment, right? And you sometimes you're tempted, right? But you have to really just understand nutrition and understand it as fuel. I'm not big on counting calories, right? I mean, I'm super big on meal preps because it's convenient,
Right.
and that's honestly a good jump start for people.
Yeah.
I myself, when I'm okay, I want to lose 10 pounds or 20 pounds, I'll usually just jump on a meal prep.
Yeah.
Jump on meal prep for like a few weeks just to kind of jumpstart that program, right? Jumpstart it. But it takes time. But you have to understand and educate yourself on the importance of nutrition and food and how to properly portion control and things like that.
Yeah.
But easier said than done,
Yeah.
right? And and it's a support system. That's really what it comes down to, the support system. You got to get your family and your tribe in on it, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to do it on your own. So I always tell, like, next week, me and my wife are starting a meal plan because she knows if I do it by myself, if I'm sitting down at the dinner table and I'm watching what she's eating, it's going to be back and forth, right? We're going to be looking at each other like, wait, what are you eating? So it's take it in stride, educate yourself first, and really understand what nutrition is and how to properly fuel your life and your lifestyle,
Yeah.
right? So there's so many things out there, right? That we could talk about intermittent fasting. We could talk about all of that, those different things.
Yeah. So any tricks or suggestions, people set their goals. We understand it's hard, but any things you do or any tricks you provide or you would suggest for people to maintain those habits once they decide this is what they want to do?
I'm big on water, element of life, right? Like, I carry my flask around every day. Like something as simple as that and staying hydrated. Be surprised, right? Like I always tease when someone says, "Oh, you have a headache," I'm like, "You're probably dehydrated. Drink some water."
Yeah.
Drink some water first, right? But I mean, you really just have to. It's you versus you.
Yeah.
I'm big on that. You versus you. That's the biggest competition is yourself, and you got to understand your lifestyle, understand who you are, and then from there, set your plan of attack.
Yeah.
Right? Sit down and map it out. There's no magic pill to take, unfortunately. That's the reality of it. You have to put in the work. There's no shortcut.
Yeah.
And that's, and then I always tell people this. I'm big on this. Go and get your annual physical. It's common here on Guam. They don't get their baseline. No one knows their baseline. They do it only if they really have to. Yeah. And it's like usually one in every 5 years. Go every year, do your labs, and be on top of it. At least that. You're paying for it in your insurance.
Yeah.
Go and do your physical every year. Go get your labs done every year. Understand your baseline. And with technology now these days, there's so many different apps out there, so many different wearables. I mean, there's so many different things you could use, right? Just nerd out on your health and fitness, right? Make it a cool little thing you could do with your family and, get your baseline and start there.
Yeah. So, yeah, if we were like close friends, if you were my bro, right? Just recently, I was running out trying to get my exercise in at Tijan, and I was running, and then I was kind of veering off, curious because I've never been to the elite gym where the basketball, where the national team plays, right? So kind of veered off, walked over there, and then I got attacked by two dogs. And, I managed not to get bit, but then in that process of trying to kick their head off, I fell backwards and fractured my wrist. And that was just, and kind of the sad thing for me, or it's just, I don't want to make it a pity thing, but like, I took 2 months off. I just got lazy, and the first time in almost 5 years. For the last 5 years, I've been working out 5 days a week in my own gym. Had a personal trainer, but for some reason, I took 3 months off of not doing any exercise really. And it was nice sleeping in, but and then just this month, I got into Paradise Fitness and the premium, started working out in the mornings, and then this happened. And I'm a little sad about it, but like, what would you say to me as like, if you were consulting me as your buddy, like how would you get me motivated, or like what should I change on my psyche? Or Or
Yeah,
how should I go about it?
that's the biggest thing right there is your mindset, right? And especially with injuries, I'm not gonna say I'm injury prone, but within the last 5 years, I've had some good injuries. I tore my Achilles, had surgery. I've had a fracture on my arm. So when you get into those injuries, it's all mind.
Yeah. How
It's
did you not give up? Like
yeah.
what kept you going?
Man, it's in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity, right? I mean, it's so I always look at those things like challenges. For some reason, when I get injured, I start there's something that twitches in my head, and I start exercising actually even more when I'm injured.
Yeah.
It's weird, it's like I don't want to. I don't want to just be at home, So I always would try and do something. I was crutching into the gym. You have other limbs that you could work on,
Okay.
right? So it's just self-motivation, you versus you. I always tell people that, especially when they're injured. That's why when I saw you with that, I was like, oh, man, Wolverine healing factor,
Okay.
It's all in your mind,
Okay.
right? You versus you.
Okay. I'll take that into account. So I'm going to get back in next week and I'm just going to work out my right hand. I'll be bigger on this side. I'll just do curls on one side then.
Legs all day.
And legs all day?
Legs
Okay.
all day.
Okay. We touched up on the insurance a little bit or kind of the healthcare system, but do you find that does like BCBS or Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, do they also provide like membership, I guess, compensation to gyms or?
No, we haven't. It's all just local insurance
So
carriers.
it's pretty
right
unique
now.
to Guam then.
Yeah, it is unique
Okay.
to Guam, and that started back in I think 2010. But as far as I know Blue Cross Blue Shield and United, those were the ones we were working with, Kaiser and all of those. They have so many different programs, silver sneakers programs, and
That's
things
for
like
more
that.
from the Medicare, right?
Yeah, Medicare. So, I mean, that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, now it's so mainstream that preventable healthcare, it's in there within your healthcare plan, right? It's just, I think you got to call and ask, right? You just got to ask, and you got to ask and call, and I think that's how it's going to start.
Okay. So we are lucky as Guam residents that compared to maybe the United States healthcare system, we have a little more access or some money going towards our memberships. And
Oh no,
getting
in the
access,
U.S.
right?
they do
Oh,
have,
do?
yeah. So
Okay.
they actually do. Oh, that's what your question was.
Okay,
Yeah, they
yeah.
do. So even when I was at 24, they have programs with the insurance.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not just on Guam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was the compensation, would you say, pretty close, or would you say Guam is less?
It's pretty close. Yeah,
Close,
it's
okay.
pretty close. Yeah, it's interesting here, right? But it's pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you had it your way, like, what do you think could be improved? Because you said something about integration, and if you had your way, what would be the ideal? Like, if insurance would cover things, like, what things would you say would be the best things to be able to get coverage?
Yeah, I mean, even for physical therapy, if they could give us a little bit more sessions, right, for physical therapy. When I was injured, I was like, wait, I only have, I blasted through mine.
Yeah.
I wanted to go 3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
And after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I reached the top already. I was like, oh man, I got to go and restart that process. So yeah, if they could up physical therapy for things like that, cardiac rehab, like those type of things, you need time, right? They should definitely pay for it for physical therapy aspect. Do partnerships with clinics and fitness facilities, right? Those type of programs I think are going to be the game changer, even with nutrition, with registered dietitians.
Yeah.
If you can get a registered dietitian, your doctor, and the fitness provider to be all on the same page, that trifecta right there.
Yeah.
And then also on the psychology side, right, and the therapeutic side, a lot of the times they don't talk about mental health, and that's something that we're really pushing for this year is the correlation with exercise and the benefits and the therapeutic release when it comes to mental health. That's the game changer. Since COVID, it's not just about coming into the gym looking good.
Yeah.
You can look good, but if your mind's not right, how are you going to win when you ain't right within, And that's something that I tell my staff, and you don't understand the members and the people we have coming into the facility, what they're battling physically, psychologically, and mentally. That's huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the shift in the industries. You're going to start to see more mental health awareness.
Yeah.
And they don't like to talk about it, right? Suicide and mental health awareness is something huge. People don't like to talk about it, but it's Guam's leading cause of death.
Yeah.
Right after that, it's chronic disease.
Yeah.
And I think that would be my trifecta, if we can get physicians and registered dietitians and fitness providers along with psychology and mental health awareness. That's going to be it right there.
Yeah. Because, I totally agree with that. And there's a good amount of studies also showing that exercise alone can be as powerful as taking an SSRI or antidepressant medication. Yeah. And even now, there's some studies even coming out that SSRIs don't do anything. They're just all placebo, probably. I mean, they change the neurochemistry a little bit, but really, when you look at it, it's not all that effective. Yeah. So exercise might be a little bit better option, a safer option without the side effects, right? And this might be a little more controversial, or how can you really implement this? But sometimes I think about, like I talked to Chewy or Jesse from Boca Box, right?
Yeah, huge.
Like insurance companies are paying like $1,000 a month for GLP-1 agonists like Ozempic and things. That's crazy, $1,000 a month. And how many diabetics are there? If we get even 10% of diabetics on the healthcare system is going to go broke. $1,000. And sometimes I'm thinking, like, why can't we just give $500 to a meal subscription plan like Boca Box? Yeah. That's more effective than the Ozempic, actually. And
huge with Boca Box and Jesse. I jump on their meal plan all the time. I'm always messaging Jesse. They're one of our Paradise Fit Perks accounts, and huge. If they did that, I mean, with fitness and with the doctor, that would be the game changer.
Yeah, but that's going to be a hard one to push. Like, how can we get food that's reimbursed, right? Yeah. Can we call it a medical food if a dietitian's running or something? But for me, I would prefer that than someone taking medicine, right? That's going to just patchwork all the way through to the rest of their life. Yeah. Right?
We're too busy treating the sick than preventing them to get sick. And it took me a while to kind of like embrace that. Like it would frustrate me so bad when I moved back and realized just like, but you're not going to change that. You know, I think it's going to take years to slowly implement and see those little changes. But I think the more data that comes out and the more lives we change collectively, it's for the better.
So, and speaking of habits, what is Anthony Sgro's personal habits? Like, do you have like a routine, a workout routine? Do you use any tech? Do you do any biohacking? Like, how do you try to keep your health intact?
Man, so I like to say my New Year starts when the Chinese New Year. That's what everyone's like, oh, New Year's resolution. It's not New Year's resolution. It's more of just new goals. But maintenance is the name of the game, right? I mean, after tearing my Achilles and you know, having my daughter, like I grew up playing all sports, right? So it's now that I'm reaching like my mid to late 30s, you know, motion is lotion. I like to say that. Yeah. And it's definitely, if you're not moving, you're going to feel those aches and pains. And I'm starting to feel that, you know, at this age. So I'm always trying to figure out the right exercise prescription for me or the right program. But I'm big on infrared sauna and big on cold plunging. I just started cold plunging like within the last year or two. And
how often are you doing it roughly?
I cold plunge at least 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay. For how long?
10 minutes.
At what?
10 minutes. So I'm not an elite athlete, you know, but I know elite athlete, they say 37.5 to like 45 to 47. Mine's like at 55. 50 to 55. Yeah. 50 to 55. And I'm in there for about 10 minutes. But I'll usually sauna for like 30 minutes and then jump into the cold plunge. But even that, like I'm big on golf now since after COVID, like everyone else, I picked up golf and I love it. It's one of the most frustrating, hardest games I've ever played in my life. And I think that's why I'm addicted to it because it's really a mental game. Yeah. And, you know, it's really just to be in shape enough to play golf and keep up with my girl. But, there's no tricks or anything per se. But as far as like fitness wearables, I mean, it's big to know what your target and peak heart rates are during your exercise program and what your resting heart rate look like and things like that. When you learn, you know, like how to do dynamic stretching and warm-ups, right? I grew up in the era where the coach just says, okay, 4 laps and here's the ball, you know? And it's funny to like think about it. And now takes me 15 minutes to do some dynamic stretching before my workouts, and understanding the difference between like high intensity interval training and traditional style of lifting. I think it's just fitting your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And
So you do some of the cold plunge, the sauna, some golf. In terms of gym work, like lifting, like what's your style of lifting? You know, kind of what's your ratio of cardio to, yeah, can you give me a little more descriptive on
so
your
I mean,
workout routines?
I love for cardio. Like I'm not a big runner. That's why I'm forcing myself this year to do 5K a month.
Yeah.
But I love boxing and like jump rope personally. So if I could do jump rope and hitting mitts or the bag, I prefer doing that type of cardio.
Yeah.
As far as lifting goes, like I love like the hex bar, right? I love hex bar. Like Olympic lifting, not so much. Like before, I was doing a lot of Olympic lifting when I was living in Hawaii, but now just the basics, right? Deadlift, squats, and bench. But as far as just all those little aches and pains you start to feel from all the years of playing sports and not listening to your body and pushing it, definitely has affected a lot of the movement patterns. So like understanding just body mechanics and the movement patterns and the different planes of motions for me, like sometimes I might need to go see the physical therapist, right? Just to, to tweak things up within my programming. But for the most part, it's nice at Paradise because we kind of have like everything's there.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to do Olympic lifting or if you want to do somewhat of a high intensity functional CrossFit workout, it's there if you want it. If you want to do traditional bodybuilding style, it's there if you want it as well. And that's the cool part. But we're doing some renovations right now within our facility. So it's really fun to see that, right? So we got a lot of new toys coming.
Oh, nice.
So come to Organic Paradise. We got a brand new turf, and then we have a 40-foot and 20-foot container here with new equipment. So we're going to be getting all the old equipment out and putting all the new stuff in.
Okay.
So really exciting stuff.
Yeah. So it seems like you use physical therapy quite often. Have you tried acupuncture at your...
So that was going to be the next part would be acupuncture.
Yeah.
I started acupuncture when I tore my hamstring, not tore, like partial tear in the hamstring. And I never tried acupuncture. And one of my good friends, classmates, got his master's. He had his own practice in Phoenix, Arizona, came back. He's actually a neighbor to my grandma's. So I asked him about it, and I was kind of skeptical because I don't really like needles, right? But then everyone's like, oh, it's needles, but it's just dry needling. It's like literally like a prick. And the needle's not so big. So I was like, okay, yeah, why don't we just try it? I tried it. Game changer.
Yeah.
Game changer. I don't know why I waited that long. So like, even if I'm stressed, if you're having a stressful day or if you didn't get a lot of sleep, like it helps.
Yeah. So yeah, you got a gem there, Mr.
Vanderbilt. Yeah, Vanderbilt.
Right?
Brandon Vanderbilt.
Yeah, because I tweaked my back. This is like a little over a month ago. Like I forgot how I tweaked it, but it was maybe about a 4 out of 10 pain.
Yeah.
Just annoyance that just enough that I couldn't work out. Just one 30-minute session, pain melted away. It was amazing. Yeah. So just
Chinese medicine's been around for how long, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I was skeptical in the beginning. So I tell anyone, I'm like, you guys just have to try it. Don't be so quick. They always think about the Nutty Professor movie when, you know what I mean? How he had like all those needles in him. Like that's no one really has been exposed to it, I think, here on Guam.
Yeah.
But it's slowly getting there.
So if you have any acute pain or even chronic pain, I mean, there's more, reasons to see an acupuncture, but even just the pain aspect, I'm referring a lot and recommending Brennan a lot these days. Because also his technique is a little bit different. Like some acupuncturists I've been to, it's kind of painful, especially in the areas there's not much meat.
Yeah.
It could be kind of painful. Yeah. But his technique was actually like I didn't have any pain. Yeah. So he's got a pretty cool technique.
And he does the warm up, so he'll massage before and after too. Like I had bad plantar fasciitis for a little while. And I did acupuncture of him, and you would think you would hurt on your feet. Yeah. I mean, there's certain parts, there's all the nerves in your feet, but it didn't hurt as bad as I thought. Yeah. And it definitely helped with my plantar fasciitis. Yeah. So it's game changer. I don't know what took us so long, right? Like I said, Guam's always 5 to 10 years behind, but it's people like us that are going to push the envelope and help bridge that gap. So. Yeah.
Um, One thing I want to kind of pivot to, kind of leading back to Ikigai and kind of what motivates you or what has influenced your life. But who are your heroes?
Man, I have a bunch of heroes, but I mean, obviously, my grandparents, my dad, of course, right? That's the seed, right? That's the lineage, right, within our DNA. And I think once you accept and embrace that, the apple doesn't fall from the tree, and you have to embrace your lineage and your legacy of where you come from, and that helps you be authentic,
Yeah.
right? And then it helps know who you are. So those would be my heroes, and then of course like Bruce Lee, I mean Michael Jordan, right? Those are like two people, right? Mike Tyson, a lot of athletes that would be heroes, but yeah, those would be my main heroes. Obviously, my wife and my daughter, of course. Those are the bosses and the hero and bosses. But yeah, definitely my grandparents and my dad and my family, my mom. But more so, that it's the tribe. It takes a village to raise someone, right?
Yeah.
And that's the older I get, and when I'm raising my own family, you start to realize those little things in life, right? And when you asked me, when I was when I was defining that, I was like, man, I really had to dig deep and think about it, right? I mean, yeah, we have a lot of superficial heroes,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, those would be my main ones.
So LeBron James or Michael Jordan?
Oh man, that's an easy one. I was born in the '80s. Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan's like, I always tease. I was like, you don't see anyone wearing LeBron James shoes with a suit. You only see people wearing Jordans with a suit.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes. But Jordan for sure, just the impact he has and his mental aspect on the game, but just in life in general. Like, just he influenced someone like Kobe Bryant. You know what I mean? Like without MJ, there would be no Kobe, right? Without MJ or Kobe, there would be no LeBron. I mean, I love LeBron and what he's doing. I'm embracing LeBron. He's definitely a freak of an athlete.
Yeah.
Like, I love it, but Michael Jordan just had this finesse and the impact he had to the culture of just basketball, but just in general sports. Like, you think about it, like he's one of the reasons why I even started golf. Just because he golfs, I was like, I want to golf just because Michael Jordan golfs, right? But definitely MJ.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Yeah. Yeah. I don't really like LeBron's, I guess. Sometimes I feel like he's a little bit fake and just not genuine sometimes. But one thing I do really respect about him is how he takes care of his body. I think he spends like $1 million.
I was just gonna say that he spends over $1 million. Yeah, his trainer and
yeah.
what he does, like he's
had the same, I think, personal trainer for the years that kind of went with him and moved up with him. So that's one thing I respect. Like he really invests in his health, and he's pretty much health is wealth. Where if he can't play, he's not making money or he's not making influence.
He's 40 years old and still playing 30 plus minutes a game. Like you cannot deny greatness like that.
Yeah, and you also saw that in the Olympics too, like how dominant he was over some of his younger cohorts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still with you, Michael Jordan. I'm 80s, 90s, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure, MJ's the GOAT.
Yeah, sometimes I think it's a healthy dose, or sometimes it's healthy to have a little of perspective and have mortality, kind of in the back of our mind, and have that sometimes creep up like in our forefront. What I mean by that is, you don't want to be at the point where I'm going to die, and I'm afraid of everything. Am I going to die from this or that? But sometimes question mortality that, it could happen any day. Accidents can happen. I can leave this earth anytime, and things can happen, right? And sometimes kind of having that thought in a little background, I like to resurface that and ask that question sometimes, and sometimes I also use that as a motivator because I can get complacent too and lazy sometimes, and get comfortable. I make decent money as a physician, but so I'm comfortable with life, and I might stop pushing, and keep moving forward, learning more, or kind of expand business, or trying to be a better person. But my question to you is, when all is said and done in your life, how do you want to be best remembered?
Oh man, that's a great question. I mean, I think the level I'm at right now in my life, you know, I haven't really even scratched the surface. And I was talking about that with my wife. It's like there's still a lot to be done, but obviously this is a gift, and you don't know how long you're able to enjoy this gift of life. But I think what I would want to is just how I made people feel, right? That feeling and energy that you made someone feel at the end of the day, right? And it goes back to just being genuine, being authentic. At the end of the day, it's how did you make that person feel? How did you make the people around you feel and the people that you love feel? And I think that's what legacy is. It's not what you leave behind. It's what feeling you gave to the people that you loved and the people that you led. And I mean, right now, right, I'm only 36, right, but still, that's my mantra, right? Like and when you think about legacy and you think about what you want to leave behind, at the end of the day, it's just that feeling and that energy you give people and how you made them feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Simple. Keep it simple, stupid. I mean, I could zone out and talk about it to a deeper standpoint, but if I had to say it like in a quick one-liner, like that would be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming down this way. And
sure.
it was always fun to talk to you. And, you know, I'm trying to expand my community of fitness and being more people around that have that health vision, and hoping to work with you more later on.
Definitely, Doc. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.